My name is Richard, and I never thought a single family dinner could change the course of relationships in ways I could hardly imagine. I had always believed in keeping the peace and letting minor slights slide for the sake of family harmony. After all, I had been the one who hosted countless gatherings, cooked endless meals, and ensured everyone felt welcome. But that night, my patience was about to be tested in ways I hadn't anticipated. It was a cool Saturday evening in late November. The smell of roasted turkey and fresh bread filled my home, a smell that I had perfected over the years. My daughter, Olivia, had called earlier in the week, insisting that I host the dinner at my place this year. Her husband, Lucas, my nephew through marriage, was coming too, along with their 2 children. I had always liked Lucas well enough, though I had noticed a growing arrogance in him over the past year. He had been promoted rapidly at work, and with success had come a certain insolence. I spent the morning preparing the house, polishing silverware, setting the table, and double-checking every dish I had planned. I prided myself on hosting dinners that not only filled the stomach but also nourished the soul, creating an atmosphere of warmth and respect. By 6 o'clock, everything was ready. The family began arriving one by one, laughter echoing through the halls. Olivia greeted me warmly, giving me a hug. The children ran ahead to play, their laughter reminding me why I loved these gatherings so much. Then Lucas arrived. At first, everything seemed normal. He shook my hand, made small talk, but as the evening progressed, I began to notice a subtle tension. It started with a small remark about the decor. "Uncle Richard," he said, raising his eyebrows, "I didn't expect the dining room to look, well, like it's still from the last decade." I smiled politely, brushing it off as harmless teasing. After all, I had hosted this room countless times, and many had complimented my taste, but then came the comment that pierced deeper than any mere joke could. "And this turkey, Uncle," he said with a smirk, slicing into the meat with a practiced hand, "I'm not sure you've learned how to cook properly yet. Maybe next time, leave it to someone with real talent." I froze mid-gesture, holding the serving spoon over the platter. The laughter around the table faltered, and I could sense the shock rippling across Olivia's face. My nephew had publicly insulted me in front of the entire family. My stomach twisted, and a hot wave of anger mixed with disbelief surged through me. For a moment, I considered reacting impulsively, shouting, or making a sharp retort, but I forced myself to breathe. 42 years of life experience had taught me that anger can be destructive when unleashed without thought. I set down the spoon, smiled tightly, and said calmly, "Lucas, I appreciate your honesty. Perhaps next time you can show me your technique while I take notes." He chuckled, seemingly unconcerned, but I knew the evening had shifted. The subtle respect I had always commanded was now under scrutiny. For the remainder of dinner, I maintained my composure, engaging with other family members, asking about their work, their school, their lives. But I could feel Lucas's eyes on me, a mix of amusement and arrogance. After dinner, as we gathered in the living room for coffee and dessert, I noticed Lucas leaning back in the armchair, smugly observing the room. I excused myself, telling Olivia I needed a moment in the kitchen. Once there, I quietly reviewed the situation, thinking through my options. The truth was, I had always been a man who valued respect and fairness. Lucas had crossed a line, and if left unchecked, it would establish a precedent that undermined my authority in family gatherings and, more importantly, in my personal dignity. I needed a way to respond not with anger, but with strategy, subtlety, and impact. That's when an idea struck me. I would give Lucas a challenge, something that would put his arrogance to the test without humiliating him in front of the family. I returned to the living room and casually mentioned, "Lucas, I've been thinking, you clearly have high standards in the kitchen. How about you help me prepare the next family dinner? You can show me how it's done." His smirk faltered slightly. "Oh, you really want me to take over?" he asked, sounding both amused and confident. "Yes," I replied calmly. "I'd like to learn from someone with your expertise. We can start tomorrow. How does that sound?" Lucas leaned back, chuckling nervously. "All right, I'll show you how it's done. But be warned, I don't hold back." The next morning I arrived early, fully prepared. I had laid out all the ingredients, utensils, and recipes meticulously organized. Lucas walked in, confident as ever, expecting to take charge. I let him think he was in control. As we began cooking, I subtly observed his technique. He followed recipes rigidly, ignoring some of the nuances that experience had taught me over decades. When he tried to season the meat, I suggested subtle adjustments, demonstrating techniques that only years of practice could refine. He raved them off at first, insisting his way was better, but as the afternoon progressed, the results began to tell a different story. The turkey he had planned to roast was uneven, slightly dry in some sections, and lacked the depth of flavor I had perfected. I suggested minor adjustments, timing, temperature, seasoning, and slowly, he began to realize the limitations of his method. Finally, when the main dish was ready, I presented it on the table, inviting him and the family to taste. The subtle difference was immediately apparent. The seasoning was more balanced, the meat juicier, the flavors richer. Lucas's confident smile wavered, replaced by an expression of surprise and grudging respect. "Uncle Richard," he muttered quietly, almost to himself. This actually tastes incredible. I didn't think I smiled warmly. Sometimes experience speaks louder than ego. There's always something to learn, even for those who think they know it all. The family gathered around, enjoying the meal, oblivious to the small battle of pride that had just been fought. But Lucas could not ignore it. That day, he learned a lesson in humility, one that would change the way he approached not only family gatherings but life itself. Over the next few weeks, Lucas began to show a remarkable change in demeanor. He stopped the snide comments, started asking for advice, and even admitted publicly at a subsequent dinner, "Uncle Richard, I underestimated you. I see now how much skill and care goes into what you do. I'm sorry for insulting you that night." I accepted his apology graciously, understanding that true respect is earned, not demanded. It was a lesson in patience, strategy, and the power of quiet assertion. Rather than confront him with anger, I allowed him to experience the natural consequences of his arrogance, seeing firsthand that skill and experience are not to be mocked. By the end of the year, Lucas's relationship with me had transformed completely. He became cooperative, respectful, and even sought my guidance in matters outside of the kitchen. Our family dinners regained their warmth, no longer shadowed by his earlier insolence. Looking back, I realized that the insult at dinner was not just a challenge, it was an opportunity. It tested my patience, my strategic thinking, and my ability to assert myself without hostility. I learned that sometimes the most powerful response is not confrontation, but demonstration. By showing rather than telling Lucas the value of experience and respect, I was able to restore balance, dignity, and harmony. The incident also strengthened my own sense of self-worth. I realized that no matter what someone says, no matter how close they are to you, you have the right to demand respect. Humility must be cultivated, and arrogance must be corrected not with anger, but with wisdom, strategy, and quiet confidence. From that day onward, our family gatherings took on a new tone. Laughter, warmth, and genuine appreciation replaced tension and subtle insults. Lucas never again treated me with disrespect, and our relationship grew stronger than it had ever been. I learned that the power of patience and strategy can overcome even the sharpest insults, and that sometimes the greatest victories are achieved not through confrontation, but through subtle, undeniable demonstration of one's value. Even now, when the family gathers, I sometimes see a glance from Lucas, a hint of acknowledgement. A silent, "I learned my lesson." And I smile, knowing that dignity, experience, and quiet resolve can triumph over arrogance in ways that anger never could.